Okay, everybody, welcome to the York 912 Patriots training session, running campaigning for election. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, then we're going to have the candidates come up and speak for a few moments. First of all, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Jim High is going to say the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jim? Oh, there he is.
Since you all sat down, if you'll just bow your heads and fold your hands. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come here this evening devoted to your service. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us life and breath and the energy to go about this work. I'm sure you're smiling on this room this evening as we enter and we see enthusiastic candidates willing to step forward to do your bidding in a common sense Christian fashion, something we sorely need. Dear Heavenly Father, as we travel tonight to our homes and in the next few days, we're going to be facing more snow. Please give us transportation and guidance to give a safe passage to and from our destinations. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all those who are participating here this evening, and most especially those who have come to witness what takes place. These efforts to work on campaigns need many volunteers, so give them a heart to volunteer their services. There's so many things to be done. Many are minuscule, some are huge, but the time between now and May the 20th is short but long. And we ask that you give us the energy to do your work here on earth to prepare your kingdom. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you with gracious hearts in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Okay, we have a lot to cover tonight with the training and the primary candidates with us tonight, so let's get started. First, I'd like to comment on the special election for PA State 28th District seat. As many of you have already heard, on January 12th, Mike Wall resigned from his elected position, and Lieutenant Governor Jim Cawley immediately set the special election date of March 18th, 2014. And the Republican Committee Chairman, Bob Wilson, set the Republican Committee nominee meeting for tonight. This resignation did several things. First, it placed a burden on the county, the people who take the time to either work as judge or inspector within each precinct, those who represent the candidates, and finally the committee people if they're doing their job. Second, it imposes a projected cost between $200,000 and $300,000 to the taxpayers. Although Harrisburg picks up the cost, the taxpayers are still paying. Third, as we sit here tonight, the Republican Committee is holding a special meeting to elect a Republican nominee to be placed on the ballot of the special election. There are 3 committee members here tonight, including myself, who were unable to attend due to obvious schedule conflicts. I personally appointed a proxy to vote on my behalf. Fourth, this special election gives the winner an edge in both the primary and general election as being the incumbent. I do understand special elections are legitimate and somewhat necessary, but if we look at last year's resignation of Representative DePascali, it was January 15th. The special election was held off until the primary of May 21st, with the leaders stating the reason for the delay was that it wouldn't cost taxpayers any additional money. They could have done it this year. And finally, if Ron Miller wins the election for the Senate seat, the special election, another special election will need to be held to fill his current position. Unless the governors would, well, I think it would be a special election in May regardless. So, as some insight to later in the meeting, the precinct committee people are the ones that are voting in that special meeting tonight. Okay, now on with the agenda. I put together a presentation here. Hopefully I can go through it quick enough to not bore you and give the speaker some time. The topics I want to cover are the four-year election cycle, positions available, important dates for 2014, voter registration, absentee ballot. Now this is an application, not the actual ballot. Nomination petitions, and then ready, set, now run. Let's go into the four-year cycle. We're currently in the third cycle. This is the general. And for this one, you'll see U.S. senators, U.S. reps, governor, lieutenant governor, PA senators, representatives, justice, and judges. But also, you will have the state and precinct committee seats. I'm going to try and rush through some of this so we don't get bogged down. So for the positions available, you have, here's the years, and you also have it in the packet. If you didn't get a packet, they're in the back. For this current cycle, Casey and Toomey are not up for re-election. Casey is in 2018, and Toomey will be in 2016. Okay. Now, for the U.S. congressional map, after 2012, District 4 takes all of York, Adams, and part of Cumberland. Our current rep is Scott Perry, and he's up for re-election this year. At this point, I see no challengers for him. And that's looking on Monday, I think it was. For governor, this is every 4 years, limited to 2 consecutive terms. Now, here's something I didn't know. There is no limit on the number of terms a governor may serve in total as long as there is a 4-year break after the second term. So that's a little scary. Lieutenant governor is a 4-year term. I don't know if there's a limit similar on them. Our current governor is Republican Tom Corbett. Bob Guzzardi is the only declared Republican challenger. There are 5 potential Republican challengers, 8 declared Democratic challengers, with Allison Schwartz being the strongest right now from some of the polls. There's 3 potential Democratic challengers, and Ken Krawchuk is the only Libertarian challenger at this point. For Lieutenant Governor, Jim Crawley again, but there's 5 declared Democratic challengers, no Republican challengers at this point, as far as I've seen. On to the PA Senate. Before the redistricting, as you can see, we had Pat Vance in the 31st, Richard Alloway in the 33rd, Rob Teplitz in the 15th, Lloyd Smuckers the 13th, and finally Mike Walls the 28th seat. After 2012, this changes a little bit. Pat Vance now has a larger part of York County. Alloway is now part of Franklin, Cumberland, and York. District 15 is no longer part of York, but now we have Republican Mike Fulmer in District 48, and he represents York, Lebanon, and Dauphin. District 13 is no longer part of York. I think that was Smucker. He's now just in Lancaster, I think. And District 28 takes on the remainder of York portion where District 13 was consuming it. The terms for both Pat Vance and Richard Alloway are up in 2016, so they're not up for re-election yet. For the 28th district, as I mentioned, it's Mike Wall has retired, and there's going to be a special election on the 28th. The Republican committee is going to nominate the person. For the 4 candidates initially submitted resumes and letters of intent that were due think last Friday. There were William Anderson, Zach Hearn, Ron Miller, and of course Scott Wagner, but he withdrew his nomination, but he will be the challenger in the primary. There's also 2 Democratic nominees that's just recently, I think in the last week, David Colon and Linda Small. Did I move on to the 48? Did I go too far? Okay. Sorry about that, a little confused. For the 48th District, Senator Fulmer is now part of York County. At this point, I didn't see any challenges for him. Yeah, we like him. On to the House redistricting. Before the redistricting, we had Mike, is it Regan or Reagan? Regan, okay. He had the 96th district. I think that goes away. Will Tallman, the 193rd. No, Regan's still in, I'm sorry. Seth Grove with the 196th. Ron Miller, the 93rd. Keith Gillespie, the 47th. Kevin Schreiber just elected in the special election for the 95th, and Stan Saylor in the 94th. As that changed, for the 47th district, we have, as I said, Keith Gillespie, the incumbent. I saw no challengers for him. Mike Regan, no challengers. Ron Miller, the 93rd. This is going to be interesting this year. We have the Republican candidate, Ernie Marasotis, is the only challenger at this point. That's the 47th, 2nd, 93rd. Where am I at? Okay, 94th. Okay, I don't have that in my list. Stan Saylor's the incumbent. Kelly Henshaw is the challenger. And in the 95th with Ken Schreiber, we have no challengers at this point. Okay, where are we at here? The 196th. Okay, the new district, the 169th, we have the following candidates, Republican candidates: Kate Klunk, Jean Mananarelli, I probably screwed that up, and Mark Warner. I didn't see any Republican or other candidates for that race. For the 196th, of course, there's Seth Grove as the incumbent, and Republican Beth Roberts is the only challenger. Okay, then we have the PA State Committee. They're 4 years. Statewide, there's 355 total seats. In York County, there are 12. I think there's a few of us in here that are state committee members at this point. State committee people belong to different regional caucuses. I don't know the full job description of these people, but I know it's very painful when you go up there to sit at one of those meetings. I did it as a proxy for Troy one time. Did I provide the link? Yeah, there's a link. Beth had given me a link to the precinct project. I didn't look on it very much, so I'm not sure whether it's got good information or not. On to the York County Committee. Throughout York, there's 159 precincts represented by both Democrat and Republican committee members. Each district or each precinct having one man and one woman in both parties. So therefore, you have 318 people in each party. Not all positions are filled, and this is definitely a place where you can jump in and help out at the grassroots level and get to your precinct and get your people out to vote. Like I said, elected every 4 years, the county precinct people represent all registered Republicans and Democrats from their voting district. The committee members take an active role in their county party and local campaigns. The committee member basically serves as a contact and resource to those voters. And really, they should be the first person that you contact when you have questions. Okay, on to the important dates. Now, you have a sheet in your packet that gives you the important dates. I think there's about 10 or 12 of them. If you go into the election committee, you will find they have a booklet that has 30 or 40 different dates. More things, more distinct features that most people don't really need to know. In most cases, if you're filing or submitting an application, forms, or petitions, they must be received in the office by the date indicated. So if you have, we say February 18th is the first day you can start getting your petition signed for anything you're running for. March 11th is the last day that they can reach the office. So you can either mail them prior or hand deliver them. March 12th through the 26th is interesting. I just found out this. This is for petition signing for third-party candidates. I didn't realize there was a separate time frame for them. And I'm sure it's going to be a little bit more tricky to actually get your signatures if you're a third party. April 12th is the last day to register to vote before the primary election. I usually go out in my community and knock on doors and make sure everybody has a voter registration form if they need one. May 13th is the last day to apply for a civilian ballot. Now, this is just the application. Once you submit that, you will get the ballot back in the mail, and then you fill that out and send it back in. And May 16th is the last day for the elections to receive your voted absentee ballot. And of course, May 20th is the actual primary election day. And here's more of dates, but this is more for the general election. I won't go into those now. And like I said, the other dates, there's plenty more dates in this booklet, which you probably don't need to know. Voter registration forms. I ran through this a couple months ago just to see, if I'm going to hand these out and people have questions, I better know how to do it. There was only a few places that really kind of tripped me up. 4C is pretty basic. I mean, you have let's go through it quick, your citizenship, age verification, the type of, the type of registration, new, change of address, party. You have your name, proof of identification, either license, Social Security, or if you have neither, then you can check that box. I'm sure that comes in handy for some people. The address, your phone number, which is optional, but if you check one of the boxes on the back of the form that you need help or you want to be involved, you probably want to have that for them. Your voting precinct, like for New Salem Borough, I would just put New Salem, Codorus 1 Township, just Codorus 1. 5, it's your mailing address if different from your residence. 6, date of birth. Optional is your race. On to, I'm back a little bit, sorry. Okay, on to 8A and 8B. This is helpful for the election committee to actually remove your name from your previous precinct. And if you get the walking sheets, you'll notice that there are extra names on there that are left on, and this is due to people not filling out this portion. 9 is your party affiliation. 10, if you have somebody filling this out for you, they will need to fill this out, and they will be the ones signing. Otherwise, you will sign that part. 12 is your voter ID number. I asked the election committee, and they say this is not important. They don't need it, as long as your address is there, I guess. 13 indicates if you need assistance when voting. And then here's the back. If you want the election committee to contact you about either, I can't even read them. If you were there to help on election day, or if you can speak another language and help out, they will contact you. Finally, if they need the address, they'll enter it here. On the form, there's 67 counties. Every one of the addresses are on that form for them. Absentee ballot application, same thing. You're going to have your name, address, zip, county, election precinct. I don't know what the occupation's valid for. Doesn't really make sense. Date of birth, phone number is optional. The year since you lived at the address, not sure why that really matters, but and email address, which is optional. Again, your proof of ID, your license number, last four, or neither. Then if you need this due to a absent from the community or illness or disability, the first section is for the absence. Then you also fill out that information, because if you're not going to be there, you want to be able to get it where you're at. Section B is for illness. You will have to provide physician's name, phone number, and address, and the voter's signature and date. For Section C, if you need somebody to help fill it out for you, and they will sign. Now onto the petitions. If you're running and you have a petition, I think that's provided in the packet as well. You can pick these up at the elections office, or you can print them on the York County election website. I actually printed one for the state committee. Typically, they're 11 by 4 or 8.5 by 14. This one, they provided it 8.5 by 11, and you must print them head to foot. So they got to twist like this. If they are not printed correctly, they can deny them. So you want to make sure that you do that correctly. You can fill in the top section, but you want to keep the page numbers blank. You can print off as many as you want, and then as people bring them in, you can number them and then take them all in at once. The name must be exactly the way you want it to appear on the ballot. You can write Ed for Edward, John for Jonathan. You can also submit a form to change your name to be an alias displayed on the polls, on the ballot. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I guess you could change your name to A1 or whatever to get it at the top. Different nomination pages must be used for signers residing in different counties. So if you have a state-run election, you need to make sure that you only have people that are in that county signing that petition. Each signer may sign nomination petitions only for as many candidates for his offices as they are permitted to vote. For instance, if you have 4 school board members that are running on that ballot, you can write in or you can sign 4 separate school board petitions. Each signer of the nomination petition must be registered and enrolled elector of the party referred to in the nomination petition. So obviously Republican for Republican, Democrat for Democrat. And signatures should be contained within the signature box. Now I tried to mimic a little bit of what I'm talking about here. You can see Mickey Mouse kind of goes down below a little bit, and then Wile E. Coyote comes up and hits the Y. They could deny that signature. So you want to try and keep them within the box. And also at the other end here, I have North Cadorus 1. The 1 is stretching out into the date box. They could say that says 11 and deny that signature. Okay, where are we at here? Oh, cool. Okay, now on to ready, set, now run. We're all here for a reason. Could simply be for information that I'm giving you, or you're tired of the status quo with those elected, and you want to be the challenge, or the difference. With the next topic, I'll try to tell you what has worked for me and others that I've talked to. And the 2 topics that I'm going to go over are campaign preparation and campaigning, basically talking to your constituents. The first one is the election office. Location was, did I provide that? Okay, I'm sorry. There's a paper that I have in the one packet. It's called campaign preparation. In that, you should see on number 1, the elections office, the actual location and the website. For number 2, the walking list. You want to obtain the walking list for each precinct in which you are campaigning for from the election office. The list contains all the voters in that precinct, their party affiliation, and their address. So you can basically walk through, highlight them all that you're going to hit, and it allows you to pretty much prepare before you go out. Section 3, the petition. You'll need to obtain a petition specific to the office that you're running for, and the first day you can circulate them, as per the dates, is February 18th. The last day is March 11th, and they need to be notarized and turned into the office on that day. There's a link provided so you can print petitions for all but the precinct committee people. Right now, the York County elections website does not have any of the petitions online yet. They're usually a little slow about that, and they're also pretty slow about getting out the specimen ballots. You want to know who's on the ballot, they give maybe 2 weeks prior to the election. It doesn't give committee people enough time to really get that information out to people in their precinct so they can really look at the candidates and find out what they're all about. Number 4, other necessary forms and information. You'll want to obtain the voter registration forms and absentee ballots at the election office. You can also get them online. As you knock on doors, you want to ask people, do you need one? If you don't have them, tell them you'll bring one back. You'll also want to get the calendar, which I provided to you. Also, there's a link that shows you the dates, but it doesn't really print well from the York election site. Okay, on to the information pack, or the information sheet. This is the sheet that you basically hand out to the people in your precinct. As I ran for precinct committee man, I typed up a little bit of information about myself. I provided 2 samples in your packet. The first one is kind of a shorter one telling people, this is why I'm running. This is who I am. This is what I've done. My volunteer, other groups, things I'm involved in, especially in the community. On the second one, you'll notice that I have a ballot actually attached to it. So what I do is I'll go onto the site, I'll pull the ballot down, I'll make it a little smaller, put it on one sheet, and I'll also mark who I support. I don't say I endorse these people because we don't endorse. I'm saying this is who I support, and in some cases I'll tell you why. For the last election, we had the retention votes for the judges. So I went out and I kind of researched most of the judges, or all the judges, and I found different information for them. In some cases, I can't support them, so I would say a no vote. If you're unfamiliar with the retention vote, the judges are elected, and after 10 years, they come up for a yes-no vote. If they get 50% or more, they're in for another 10 years. Welcome, Todd Platts. In that sheet, I had to say no at supporting a few candidates. One of them had a PFA against him, and he's an attorney, or what's the term for it? He's a protection from, he protects people. I can't even think of the term. Yeah, not a constable, but he helps people that are battered, women that are running away or trying to defend themselves. He's supposed to be that man, and then he gets a PFA. So obviously I can't support that gentleman. Okay. Okay, let me see here. Sorry, I didn't run through this at once. I was trying to put it all together quickly. Okay, there's other information in that packet. For the second topic, campaigning. Do I have it? Okay, campaigning, selling yourself. I put this together to kind of guide you, meeting and talking with your neighbors. These are the things that I've experienced over the last 4 years. One of the funny things was, well, I'll get onto that in a second. You want to plan your efforts. You want to determine the number of homes. Now, when you get the walking list, like I said, you can go through there and mark all of the Republicans or Democrats, whatever party you're running for, and you can find out how many houses you're going to hit. You can print out that many walking sheets, information packets. You want to estimate the time it's going to take you and schedule it on your calendar. Presentation and appearance. You want to wear something appropriate and comfortable. You don't want to go in jeans, T-shirt. You want to at least present to your neighbors as you think they would want you to come to your door. How would you like to see them present themselves to you? I'm not saying you need to be in a suit and some rough shoes because you're going to walk a little bit. Talking with people. Make sure you prepare a brief statement and an introduction. You don't have to know it word for word, but just the overall idea of what you want to say. In the handout, there are 2 tips. There are other tips and suggestions, but the most important, in my opinion, is getting your information sheet into their hands. Typically, what I do is I wait till they open the door. I don't start talking. Sometimes they'll just want to leave it there and want to hear what you're saying before they open it. I just kind of stand there and wait. And as they're opening the door, as I start talking, I hand them the sheet. They almost immediately go ahead and take it from you. If you wait to tell them all the information, they're going to be like, oh, you're a politician. I'm not taking that. As you're talking and handing them this paper, they're usually distracted, first of all, with what you're saying, and then the sheet. So they're looking at the sheet and probably now not listening to you. So you want to just kind of understand that they may not hear you, and you want to be clear, talk slow enough that they're going to catch everything. They're going to be looking at the document. They're going to be trying to hear you at the same time. Also, you're a politician. Once you say that you're running for a position or you represent a party, you're a politician. If they don't know you, they're going to think you are a politician and want to slam the door on you. I've had that a couple times. One gentleman in my neighborhood, the very first time I walked around, he said, well, I don't know why you're a Republican. I said, well, aren't you a Republican? Yeah, slam. Okay. So the next time I walked around, I got to the door. I'm like, okay, how's this going to go? I was on his porch for 20 minutes. He wanted to talk to me. So he read the paper. Maybe he understood that maybe I was trying to run and do some good. So you may get the door slammed in your face, but don't take it to heart. Questions. Most people aren't going to ask you any questions, but make sure that you're ready for something. Think about what you might ask you. Know the description of the position you're running for, like precinct committee man. I told them I was running for that, and they get this look, and I said, do you know what that is? They're like, no. I'm like, well, neither did I, and that's why I'm running for this. We lived in our neighborhood, 14 years. Never saw them, not once. And for the last 4 years, my neighbors see me every election. You're going to want to find help. If you're in a larger precinct, mine's 480 people. It's closed. It's a close community. I have the Sherwood Forest, and I have out in New Salem, the Main Street, George Street. It's easy for me to walk. I can do it myself. But when you have these precincts that are 3,000 or 4,000 voters, you might be talking maybe 1,500 to 2,000 homes. They might be spread out. You might be on an RD where you have to drive to the doors. What I would generally do is find the smaller compact sections, get those first. If you have time, then start doing the rest of them. Email addresses would be great that you could send it to them. I have not once in the 4 years gotten an email address from somebody so I could send them the information. But if they're out there in the miles out in the rural area and they want to know what's going on, they would give it to you, I would hope. Be considerate of their time. Don't try to debate something with somebody who couldn't care less. Look for social cues. What I started to try to do is to figure out when somebody was done talking with me. One of the last times I went around, I went with my wife, and she helped me out. And I was kind of motioning her away. I'm like, okay, this guy's done. I just interrupted him from doing his lawn. He looked like he was being bothered. So I'm like, all right, Steph, come on, let's go. She made one more statement that I wouldn't have done. That got him intrigued. We talked for another minute or two. He ended up coming to the polls. He was not going to vote that year or that election. So it doesn't always work. You're not always going to get it right. Talking to people is like, how's this working? They could be like, yeah, whatever. And then as soon as you walk away, I hate that man. You just don't know. Did I get through that already? Whew, that was quicker than I thought. Any questions on any of that information? I know I threw a lot.
You didn't do election day polls.
I didn't?
The last two.
The last three.
The bottom two.
Huh. I don't have notes on those.
We have them on our list.
Okay. Thank you. This is kind of tricky pulling this all together.
You didn't pull this all together fast. This
No.
took forever.
Yeah. Election day, you do want to plan on being there. Even though you get out to your precinct and you talk to the people and you either make a difference or you don't make a difference. A lot of times people walk in with my sheet, thanks Ed, and they have it rolled up in their pocket, thanks for the cheat sheet, or, thanks for the information. Still plan on being there. People don't normally have questions. They don't want you handing them voter information. By the time they get there, they're coming to vote. If they don't know, I usually just ask them, do you have any questions about any of the candidates? That's about the best way that they answer. Do you want to know about so-and-so? No. Do you have any questions about anybody? Sometimes they will. Sometimes they won't. I actually get more response that way. Again, I'd say dress appropriately. They're going to see you. You're going to be the representation for them. And have fun. I started enjoying this. You get out and you meet people, you meet the neighbors that you see once in a while, you wave to as you're driving by, and then you get to talk to them. Sometimes I get stuck inside. They'll say, come on in for a couple minutes, and I'm there for 20 minutes. So you got to plan for that. It's really enjoyable to get out there and meet these people and know that they're thinking the same way you do. And they finally know that somebody else is thinking the way they do. So it's really helpful. Okay. I think I got it all. Yes. Okay. Now any questions? Jim?
Ed, is there any indication on the walking sheets who has voted most recently to let you concentrate on the active voters?
In the walking sheets, it doesn't tell you if they voted more than somebody else. It says active or inactive.
Oh.
Now, what will tell you that is the super voter list. You can go into the elections office and ask for the super voter list. And I think that actually tells you every election that they voted in the last X amount of years.
Thank you.
Certainly. Yes.
Having just gone through a school board election, that question I think is really important, and you get that from the York Board of Elections, where they'll tell you it's separated in how many times they voted the last 4 elections, and especially if you're running in a bigger race, you want to concentrate on people. You don't want to go waste your time with people A, who don't vote, and B, who aren't going to vote for what you believe in. So what you want to do is get out and introduce yourself to people that are likely to vote and would like to vote for you. They just don't know that they need to get out there. And so you get that list. I'm not a real computer guy, but I had Joel Sears help me, and he got it all down in an Excel spreadsheet. And we use that same list to make phone calls. We use the same list to knock on doors. And the other thing I would say is American Majority has a lot of help for people that are running. They're looking for citizen candidates that to go to the website. It has all kinds of information. There's also a robocall system. I don't know how effective it is, but it was relatively inexpensive. Again, you can upload that same Excel sheet. And we use criteria of how often they voted and how old they were. And so there's a lot of simple things to do that don't cost much money. You just need to know that they're there and get a little help.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, with the voter list, the super voter list, yes, I would agree that would be the people that you want to hit first of all. But like my wife and I experienced, this guy was not going to vote. There's a lot of people that they don't care anymore. I've talked to people, I'm not voting, it doesn't make a difference. Well, okay. You're not actually, you're giving them a hand up. So still, I wouldn't discount the other people. The American Majority, is that who you said?
Yes.
And they, okay. And then the robocalls for helping you to get information out. Yeah, that's relatively inexpensive. What is it, like $100 for 1,000 calls?
Yeah, I think it was even more than, it was even less than that. But it was relatively inexpensive.
Okay, cool.
I don't know how effective it is, but again, even if you get a few votes.
Right, right.
But
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Just one question. I'm filling out the petition. I did it this way and this way. Are you saying that that's correct or not?
According to the paper, you can?
So when I turn it over, I'm looking at the top of the. Could you turn
You're right, it actually does say here on the one that we printed off from the state. It does say head-to-head. Yeah, so make sure you read the instructions if you're going to print them. I know, we hate instructions, but they are very helpful, and you do not want to get, like on this sheet, it's 30 signatures. You don't want to get 30 signatures and then have it be worthless. Anybody else? Questions?
And can I just add real quick, it's my understanding, the example you gave there of the date possibly being interpreted incorrectly on the signing, remember you had
Yes.
Doers 1, and
Yes.
you might have said November instead of January.
Yep.
It's my understanding that not only could they discount that signature, they can discount every signature on there afterward. The date needs to be chronological. So if you have a date that's out of place, they can disregard everything.
So tell them to write small and keep it in the box.
And you don't, I don't know if you said this or not, about if there is a mistake, you don't cross it off, they just start writing, rewrite it again on the next line.
You do not put a line through that?
You don't cross it off, you just do it on the next line, have them redo it again.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
And you didn't really say that, the other party will definitely go and.
Yeah, if you're going to have a race where there's going to be, I don't know, some animosity or maybe, you know, a lot of money involved, people from Philadelphia coming in, they're going to really look at these pretty hard. And they're going to do what they can to get rid of those signatures.
They'll go there and discount and try to get as many of those signatures off as they can, so you don't even qualify.
So let's say the one I know is precinct committee man. That's 10 signatures. Most people aren't going to fight you on that. I would get 15. If you know 20 people, I mean, it's not really hard to do that. State committee needs 100. I'd say 125 to 150. So just to be safe. Anybody else? Yes.
Just a reminder that they should turn them in before the deadline, and it should be notarized.
Correct. Yes.
Notary involved.
Yeah, I think I did say that, but yeah, make sure it's there prior to the, on or before the date there, in the office, end of business, notarized. Do they notarize in there?
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do. I wouldn't take a chance then.
Whoever circulates it has to do with the notary.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
There's a difference between what you do and what, and we had a very contentious race compared to your position, what you're talking about, walking about around the neighborhood and getting to know your neighbors, getting them to trust you so that they literally ask, when I work the polls, they'll leave the poll to go out and get his sheet. I don't know, when we first started this, I remember Troy asking this, wherever he is. Troy asked us, do you know what a committee person is? And Ed and I looked at each other and went, no. And like you said, we never had a committee at our house. In 14 years we lived at our house. Nobody stopped at our house and talked to us about the ballot, who was going to be on it. There are supposed to be a man and a woman in your precinct for each party that comes around to your house to do that. How many of you have people that have ever done that in your neighborhoods? They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. They want you to see Todd Platts, I know that name, and vote for that. And that's it. They don't want you to be informed. So what you need to do, the job that Ed does, and that I'm going to do, I do it helping, but I'm not officially on the ballot yet till this year, but get to do the committee person. We wrote him in because nobody was running for it. I bet you nobody's going to run for it in your precinct, and you could write it in. Yes.
Can you run for state rep and state committee person?
Yes, you can. You can be in both state and precinct committee. I don't think I don't think there's any position that precludes you from being the precinct committee person. I called the election committee and she said no. The only thing you can't do is be the minority or majority inspector or the judge of election and do the precinct committee job at the polls at the same time. So my wife was on the ballot. She was the minority inspector. I was outside doing my job, meeting people. She wasn't supposed to be on there, and they realized it. She was running for tax collector.
And I'm a minority inspector, which means I help to run the poll. So I'm sitting in the poll, and I'm on the ballot for tax collector.
So she couldn't be behind the desk and be running for tax collector at the same time. So she and I switched. I went in there and sat as a minority inspector, and she went out and did my job. So, but sitting behind the desk, I couldn't campaign for anybody. I couldn't say, hey, vote for Steph. I had to sit there and hand them the stuff and say nothing. Right.
But we wrote him in when we first started to come to these meetings. And all of our neighbors know us now. And they look for Ed to see, because they trust him now. And it's that what the other side always says, you know, the feet on the ground. That's what you guys need to do. Just if you walk your neighborhoods, you're going to get healthy, and you can meet people, and you can get them clued in to what's going on, and you'll be surprised how fast people are looking for you.
Now, I made some calls to some of the precinct committee people a couple elections ago. I can't remember the specific reason why. I was trying to figure out who they were voting for, I think. And I asked them, you know, are you getting out? Are you handing papers out? Are you getting the people out to vote? And this person said, I'm getting enough people out to vote. I'm getting enough of the Republicans out to vote. I said if every precinct went out and got 80% and get them out. I've turned New Salem from being around 10 to 25% turnout, where in York County, I'm almost either number one or close to number one. One election, it was 82%. One election, it was 30-some%, and others were either there or a little bit higher. There's some that are down around 4 or 6%. You get out, you get the people to know what's going on, they'll go out to vote. Jim.
You close that first page with "have fun." How many people thank you for coming to their house? Nobody ever calls on them. Nobody ever takes the time to explain this. How many thank yous for doing it?
I get quite a bit. Some elections I'll hit the doorbell or knock on the door, drop the paper, and go because I got to move. I already talked to them. I know them. They're going to thank me for it. I'm across the street and they're coming outside. Thanks, Ed. I mean, they're yelling down the street at me, and I'm already 3 doors down. So yes, they do appreciate it. At first, like I said, at first, you're going to walk around and they're going to think you're a politician because you're running for a position or you're campaigning for somebody. Once they get to know you and they trust you, they pretty much will listen to what you're telling them. Or they'll question you and say, well, why this candidate? I've had that already. Well, I know what you're saying, but I'm still going for this person because he's a nice guy. Yes?
When's the time to start going door to door? Does it be when you do your petition?
Let's say, what's the date for for voter registration? April 23rd? I've gone out like a week or two before that because I wanted to get people registered. Because I knew the next election I wanted to get my wife elected. So I wanted to make sure that I knew, oh, I know this person doesn't vote, I know that person doesn't vote. And you look at the sheet, you know there's 3 people in the household and there's 1 person registered. I take a stack of them with me. So, you know, maybe every time I do that I might get 2 people, but that's more than it was before.
My thought is that high voter turnout would help us, would really benefit us, just the more people come out.
Well, for the last presidential election, I went and I hit Republicans and Democrats. I put down all the stats, I put information, this candidate versus that candidate. I didn't say, you must vote for this guy, you can't vote for that guy. I laid it out. I mean, there was definitely a leaning towards my candidate, but I got more of the Democrats to come out. But if you looked at the voting, if you looked at the numbers, it was right down the middle. Democrats, the percentage of Democrats to Republicans that voted, the numbers matched. And when you had the independents, they split.
For Obama, you mean? Oh, okay, that's complete, sorry, I wasn't clear. I was talking specifically for like one of those of us in this room that are running for local offices against an establishment Republican candidate in the primary. That high voter turnout is probably the most important factor. Would you agree? I've never done this before.
Well, the last election, I was campaigning for Flannelly, and the fact that he was on the Democratic ticket didn't help. The Republicans got out in numbers. I personally hit 1,000 doors dropping papers. I didn't knock. I dropped them and I went. I hit all these little communities in the different precincts where Platts won in the primary.
Not just yours.
Right. I was in Manchester, West Manchester 2. I don't know. It was like 5 or 6 of them, but I hit 1,000 doors. Did it make a difference? I couldn't really tell with the numbers. It kind of looked like it did. You could have said that because
In your precinct.
my precinct I won.
I think the answer to your
Is that what you're saying?
I think
The answer to his question is it's not only that you get the people out. They're not going to get out there if you don't have somebody coming to your door that you see face to face and that you trust and you know. Okay, so you have you have the incumbent and you have Joe Schmo, and your neighbor that you trust and know because he's got your same values says incumbent is whatever. We want, I'm personally going with Joe Schmo because he's got my morals and values. The neighbor's going to vote for that person because they know your committee man or woman. They know you, they know your values.
Let's take the Flannelly race. In New Salem, I think it was 70-30 Flannelly. In York County, it was 60-40 Platts. So.
And he's running against Todd Platts. I mean, Todd Platts was great. He would always just walk up to our house, just walking around our neighborhood when I lived at home when he was running for Congress.
Yeah, because he's a nice guy, right?
Well, I don't know. Oh, well, yeah, I've determined he's a nice guy.
He seems nice.
But like.
But what's his voting record?
Well, like this is completely separate from whatever his voting record is. This is just that he would always just walk up and be like, hey, and start talking to us and stuff, and then go on to the next house. And I'm thinking it's like a congressman in an election that he's probably he really doesn't have much opposition to, but he still would go around and do that. And that seemed to be really effective because I haven't had.
I went back and looked at the numbers prior to me doing what I'm doing as a committee man. He was getting 80% voting in New Salem. And the last election, he got 40 or 30. I can't remember which one it was. But it makes a difference. You do make a difference.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, one more. This is it.
I have a question about the petitions. I heard the gentleman in the back say not to put a line through it.
Correct.
So my question is, if there's not a line through it and it's duplicated, could it not get kicked out because there's two of the same people on the same thing? Because we had a lady from American Garden say, put a line.
Yeah, put a line through it.
I'm gonna call them, and what I'll do is after the meetings we have it videotaped. We'll put it online. I'll send the email out as well. In that, when I send that out, the link to it, I will put in there the answer to that question, what the election says, the election committee. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay, we have 6 candidates that will speak tonight. One of them will be on video. I'm going to start off with the video first.
Good evening. I'm Scott Wagner, and I'm doing this video for you tonight because, unfortunately, I have a previous engagement that was scheduled a year ago, so I'm not able to be here tonight. But anyway, I would like to welcome all of the 912 members and guests of the audience, and I wish I was here tonight. I felt it was important that I do this video so that you hear from me regarding the upcoming Senate race that will be representing the 28th District in York County. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Again, I'm Scott Wagner. I'm the president of Penn Waste. I also own KBS Dump Truck Service based in Thomasville. I grew up in York County. I graduated from Dallastown High School in 1973. I've been a lifelong resident of York County. And I've been very actively involved in the political process for 20 plus years. And recently have been extremely active the last 10 years. And one would ask, you know, Scott, why are you getting into this race? You have a business to run, you have a successful business, you know, what's it going to do for you? Well, it isn't about what this race and being a member of the Pennsylvania State Senate is going to do for me. It's what I can do for the district. I grew up in this district, and you know, my businesses have been based in York County really since 1975, 1976, and I've done well in the community. But I'm concerned about what I see going forward. And let's talk about one specific issue, and then I'll talk about, you know, where I see the campaign going and I see, an opponent out there. The largest issue I see in our area in York County is property taxes. And property taxes are driven by one thing. They're driven by pension costs. And they're driven by pension costs that are paid for at the state level for school districts, firefighter, police officers, you know, public sector employees that are based in Harrisburg. And this pension problem has been a long developing problem, but I will tell you, I look at numbers very closely running my businesses. I think in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a real defining moment on the financial ability of people to pay their property taxes, especially in York County. If you go to the York County Sheriff's Office, if you go there tomorrow morning and you look at all the sheriff's sale notices that are on the wall, in last week's York Daily Record, last Thursday, there were 263 sheriff sales listed in the paper. When the sheriff sales come out every month, I count the number because I'm interested in the number of sheriff sales that are taking place. And a lot of these sheriff sales are because people simply can't afford their property. They can't afford the mortgage or they can't afford the taxes, and so something has to give, and at a point they lose their property. So, you know, what really started this problem? Well, in 2001, there was a House Bill 26, 2001, that the legislature voted on, and it raised the taxpayer-funded pension for the legislators by 50%, and that of the government employees by 25%, leaving taxpayers to foot the bill. This is the root of the problem. Property taxes, pension, they're all linked together. And so let's talk about a candidate that is running for this seat also, and that is State Representative Ron Miller. Ron Miller in 2001 voted for this pension increase, which increased his pension by 50% again, and that of the government employees by 25%. The pension increase Miller and his colleagues gave themselves in 2001 was so excessive that, according to the Nonpartisan Commonwealth Foundation, which many of you are members and you subscribe and get their information, the State Employee Retirement Fund, SERS, will face severe financial distress in the years ahead, sticking taxpayers with an expensive bailout of retired government workers and politicians. And now the pension funds are $47 billion, that's with a B, underfunded because of Ron Miller's vote and votes of other members of the legislature. And it's reality. The record is there. Ron Miller is in his 16th year in the legislature. He's serving his 8th term in the legislature. And the reason that I'm running is I think it's time for a change. I'm a business owner. I understand financials. I understand what it's like to start a company, build a company, employ people, and have all the issues that we have in our company. But at the end of the day, the people that work for Penn Waste, and we have approximately 340 people, those are people that go to the grocery store, they either pay rent, they pay a mortgage, and in some form or fashion, they pay taxes, property taxes, on the apartment building they may live in because it's built into the rent. They pay property taxes on the home they own. And at the end of the day, this isn't about Scott Wagner getting elected to the state Senate and all of a sudden Penn Waste has great advantages, or Scott Wagner as a business owner has great advantages in Harrisburg. I won't. It is wrong what is going on in Harrisburg. The corruption in Harrisburg has to be stopped. And I am willing to go to Harrisburg. The Senate term is a 4-year term. I'm willing to serve 2 terms. I'm 58 years old. If I were to go in office in 2015, I will be, 8 plus, I'll be 59. I'll be 67 years old after serving 2 terms. I'm interested in going to Harrisburg to represent the people of the district. And, it's interesting because my businesses are, located in this district. I have the opportunity to go to Maple Donuts, I go to Rutter's, I go to Sheetz. There's many places that I get to go and I get to talk to people. There's a coffee shop down by the hospital. There's one up on top of the Queen Street Hill. And if you go in and you talk to people, our economy in York County is not getting better. And again, the big item on everybody's mind is what's going on in Harrisburg, pensions, property taxes, and how this all affects them. There are a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And as I said earlier, if we don't correct this problem now, I don't know how people in this county are going to be able to afford property taxes. But just think about this. Think about what your current property tax is today, whether it's township, county, and school taxes, and let's say it's $3,000 a year. A 50% increase is another $1,500, which would total $4,500. I can assure you that based on the numbers that the Commonwealth Foundation has put together and the studies, that your taxes will, in 5 years, be up 50% from where they are today. This is something worth going to Harrisburg and trying to correct. And, I'm not afraid to do this. I'm not a career politician, and I think it's the right thing to do. So I plan on being at your next meeting. Many of you are probably seeing billboards, and maybe mailers have been received at your home. We have palm cards we're going to hand out tonight. But over the next few weeks, we're going to be very active and vigorous with our campaign. Now, the interesting thing and the twist with the campaign is that there is now going to be a special election. This past Sunday night, Senator Wall at midnight resigned, and within 12 hours had accepted a job with the farm show operation as the executive director at a very nice salary of $104,000, I might add. And within 24 hours yesterday, Tuesday around noontime, Representative Ron Miller announced that he was going to run for the Senate. Approximately 3 hours later, approximately on Monday afternoon, about 3 hours after Senator Wall's appointment to the farm show became public, the lieutenant governor came out and issued a statement that there will be a special election held on Tuesday, March the 18th. And the special election has all of its twists and the mystery involved. But here's the mystery. The York County Republican Committee will select a candidate that will be voted on by their committee people in the 28th district. Those people that will select that candidate will be put on the ballot for the special election. If the Democrats decide to put someone, on the ballot, there will be a Democrat, and, potentially there could be a write-in candidate. But this special election and the events that took place were really a program, I don't know what you want to call it, to keep me from going to Harrisburg. If I'm not successful in the special election, I will primary Ron Miller. If he is the person selected through the special election, I will primary him in the primary election in May. So stay tuned. It's going to get very interesting. But I will tell you that I very much want to go to Harrisburg to represent the people, the taxpayers and citizens of the 28th District of York County. Thank you. And thank you for being here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next month.
Now, as I said before, the precinct committee people are the ones that are actually doing the nomination tonight at the Republican Committee for their nomination. Okay, next up will be Bob Guzzardi, candidate for governor. Here you go. If you could. Yeah, because they're videotaping that.
I'm Bob Guzzardi. Thank you very much for inviting me out here. I was most looking forward to this. I've had some contact with Beth Roberts, and I know Scott Wagner. Let me just say this about Scott Wagner. Scott Wagner is Republican Majority Leader Dominic Pileggi's worst nightmare. He is President Pro Tem Republican Scarnati's worst nightmare. He is the leadership's worst nightmare. This is Scott Wagner in the Senate will be perhaps one of the most significant changes in Pennsylvania politics. And I know Scott. I've talked with him on an informal basis. He's the guy. And I don't know that he and I'm sure we disagree about something. There must be, but I can't see much of what it is that we're disagreeing with. I'm running for governor. It is a long shot. I've never run for elected office before, but several things have happened that have made this a unique opportunity, and in ways that I'm surprised to find that I am the only person challenging Tom Corbett. And the first thing to know is that I have as much a chance, in fact, maybe a better chance of beating any Democrat in November than Tom Corbett. Tom Corbett's numbers for the last year have been in decline. There is no reason to think that they will get any better. And two things have happened since then that have really, well, one thing has happened since then, but there's other developments that will keep those numbers low and declining. What really was my item that broke the camel's back was this transportation bill. Now, there's a lot of talk about property taxes, but unless you're not driving any place and you don't buy anything that is delivered by truck, because it's not only a gas tax for consumers, it includes a diesel tax increase, you're going to be paying more, one way or the other. It is very deceptive how this was done, because previously it would show on your at the pump how much was a state tax. Now it's hidden away, so you don't know. The numbers go up, they go down. You will not see how much is this $2.4 billion increase. But when the state spends $2.4 billion, the taxpayer pays for it. The government has no other source of income other than what the taxpayers pay. So one way or another, property tax, gas tax, this tax, that tax, fees, whatever, you're paying $2.4 billion each year, annually, perpetually. That was the item that broke the camel's back. The reason that I say, and it is maybe a little while before this becomes conventional wisdom, is if Matt Sandusky has just done a 100-minute documentary. Matt Sandusky is Jerry Sandusky's adopted son who was abused by Jerry Sandusky. And I haven't seen the video. However, there are several. Number one, this will keep that issue alive. And as you probably know, the Attorney General is doing a review of the 3-year investigation. This investigation was triggered in Clinton County, and there's a story from Clinton County newspaper of the young woman who took the original interview. This was done in November of 2008. For some reason, it took from November of 2008 to March of 2009 to get the file transferred to Center County, where Jerry Sandusky lived. At that point, the DA there, Madeira, recused himself for a conflict. It later turns out that he is married to Matt Sandusky's biological sister. Then it goes to the Attorney General. The indictment does not occur till November of 2011, 3 years later. Now, I've watched SVU on TV. I've noted we had a situation in Montgomery County where the chair of the Montgomery County Republican Committee was arrested for rape. The DA convened the grand jury, took the witnesses, and within 30 days, the arrest occurred, bail was heard, indictment was issued. That was for a rape. Didn't wait for everybody else to come out of the woodwork. Had he ever done this before? I don't know, but this was a serious crime that was committed. She did not wait 3 years. She did it in a month. I'm not sure why she convened the grand jury rather than arrest, but the district attorneys have their strategies. Matt Sandusky will also talk about how he's making this movie to empower other people to come forward and speak out. And it's my view that had the arrest been made early, this would have empowered many of these other victims to come out forward knowing that they would have their voices heard. In any event, it's inexplicable that it took 3 years. This investigation, however, as ugly as it is, and it is really stomach-churning if you have kids, comes on top of the famed Bonus Gate and later the Computer Gate investigation. Now, gentle persons, you're Republicans. Gentle persons. Some of you may even get to the legislature. Gentle persons, there's the House Republican Campaign Committee. That committee owes the taxpayers $20 million, and I say that with certainty. And how do I know that? Go to the Attorney General's own indictment, the John Purcell indictment. It's right there, page 1, paragraph 3, $20 million. John Purcell was convicted of a $10 million computer good contract. He was using taxpayer money, not for roads and bridges or whatever. He was using it for private, partisan, political purposes. It is completely illegal. He is in jail for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republicans stole more money from the taxpayers than all the Bonus Gate Democrats put together. That's the party that you belong to. The reason I'm running is to give you an alternative. And I have said that the reason I am running is because I believe that the only way to reform Pennsylvania and change the direction that we're going in, and if you don't believe we're going in the wrong direction, you're probably not somebody that would be open to voting for me. But if you think we are, the only way of changing the direction of Pennsylvania is to change the Republican Party. It is crystal clear that every Democrat votes the same way. You look at their policies, everybody says, Allison Schwartz, oh no, Corbett can beat her because she's so terrible. What's so terrible about Allison Schwartz? She has exactly the same position as everybody else. She has already offered to increase taxes on Marcellus Shale by 5%, as every other Democrat has, as in fact two Republicans, Tom Murd and Gene DiGirolamo from my area. I am running to give you an alternative to Tom Corbett and to begin and give you an opportunity to begin the process of reform. I say, and it is crystal clear, no candidate can win an election. We can win the election. This is a joint matter. We're going to disagree on a few things. I'm not so focused on the property tax. I happen to think, and there's a bill right now to keep your eye on, Brian Cutler introduced it, and we'll see what happens. Beth Roberts tells me that it's going to be run next week, and it's to eliminate the automatic dues deduction for forced union dues. The idea being that if unions were so good for workers, why do workers have to be forced to join a union and forced to pay for something they don't want and don't think they need? This is a matter of worker freedom. There are other issues that this drives, but this is probably the most important issue and the one that I would focus on. I will not raise taxes. Tom Corbett, if you support Tom Corbett, ladies and gentlemen, and I heard that we started this event with a prayer, Tom Corbett made a promise to all of you as voters that he would not raise taxes. He broke his promises. You're going to vote for a candidate that broke his promises. Now you have a choice. You can vote for Tom Corbett, who broke his promises. When you get to know me, you will know that charm is not my strongest characteristic and diplomacy is not one of my skills. But I will tell you that I won't raise taxes, and I am an alternative to Tom Corbett and will give you an opportunity to reform the Republican Party. That's what I am doing here, and I hope that when I come back I can bring petitions and that you will sign them or agree to circulate them for me. Okay? Thank you. Oh, one more thing. My email address is bobgazzardi@bobgazzardi.com. So if anybody wants to reach me or ask me a question, bobgazzardi@bobgazzardi.com. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Next up is Beth Roberts with the 196.
Okay, I have a hard time with the microphone sometimes, so you'll have to tell me if I'm loud enough. All right. Hope and change. No, sorry. No, sorry, okay. Already taken? Okay, yes we can. No, all right, okay. All right, welcome and thank you for coming here tonight. I am Elizabeth Roberts, a candidate for state representative for the 196th. 20 months ago, I had the good fortune of becoming a grandmother to the cutest kid ever, Chase. When I resigned from my job last summer, before getting involved in this endeavor, I planned on being the most intrusive, too close for comfort, can't keep my hands off this kid, Grandma. Chase is at that age now when he's learning right from wrong, sort of. I was visiting a couple weeks ago, and I heard my son Daniel pleading for probably the 100th time that morning, "No, Chase." Here comes Chase, running like gangbusters from the bathroom with a pack of disposable razors in hand. He knew taking the razors was wrong because he was smart enough to run. But he did it anyway. This has become the story of their lives. Chase sets his sights on a plug, a control, a vase, a glass. The temptation is just too great. And he grabs, pushes, and throws in spite of his parents' many warnings. Watching Chase's shenanigans reminds me of our politicians. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they do it anyway, in spite of their constituents' repeated admonitions. No, Representative so-and-so. I don't think 500 different tax scenarios will equitably or efficiently fund our school districts. See, the Pennsylvania Constitution says, "The General Assembly shall provide for the maintenance and support of a thorough and efficient system of public education to serve the needs of the Commonwealth." No, Representative so-and-so. I don't think a 28-cent increase on a gallon of gas is going to make Pennsylvania more hospitable for business or investment. And I really don't think it's a good idea to bleed the taxpayers just before the pension plateau hits, the one the General Assembly caused in the first place. No, Representative so-and-so. I don't think getting directives on education from the federal government is the right way to go, especially on a set of standards that received no legislative review or fiscal analysis. Ronald Reagan noted another comparison between our elected officials and babies. Government is like a baby, an alimentary canal with a big appetite at one end and no sense of responsibility at the other. Because our politicians these days opt for career preservation over preservation of our Pennsylvania and United States constitutions, we now find ourselves trapped in a seemingly impenetrable maze of taxes, fees, regulations, permits, ordinances, laws, a bureaucratic labyrinth from which there seems no escape. What is the cliche now, which illustrates a bureaucracy run amok? How many licenses, permits, and certificates do you need to go fishing with your dog? A driver's license, auto registration, safety inspection, emissions inspection, certificate of insurance, dog license, proof of vaccination, parking permit, and fishing license. Some states require a permit to transport fish back across state lines. Some fish require a special stamp. Some fish require a report of catch. And if the fish have value, you might have to put that on your income tax return. And the list goes on and on and on. Above this labyrinth, to which we commoners are all subjected, stands a mighty fortress, and within its walls, the career politician who caused this mess sits fat and happy above the fray, unaccountable, untouchable, and immune to the struggles of his constituents. My father, a retired Navy captain and a former military analyst for the Department of the Navy, and the best dad in the world, often joked after a long day at the office, "The first thing I would do to improve government efficiency is quit." If we could only get, let's say, 230 or so of our legislators in Pennsylvania, and all but a handful in our federal legislature, to actually do this, government efficiency would improve by leaps and bounds. Henry Hazlitt, an American business and economics journalist, summed up the art of economics in a single sentence. The art of economics consists in looking not merely at the immediate, but at the longer effects of any act or policy. It consists in tracing the consequences of that policy, not merely for one group, but for all groups. In the era of the career politician, such simplicity and such a common sense approach to economic policy will never be brought to bear. The career politician's only purpose is to see another term. So too is the political parties. Never do they apply policies that benefit all and benefit all forever. Rather, they enact policy that benefits the groups that benefit their careers. The upcoming pension plateau serves as a perfect example of their complete lack of consideration of what the long-term effects of their acts or policies might be. Our founding fathers warned repeatedly that public service was just that, service, and a career in politics should never be incentivized. George Mason said it best, "Nothing so strongly impels a man to regard the interest of his constituents as the certainty of returning to the general mass of the people from whence he was taken, where he must participate in their burdens." Ronald Reagan once joked, "Status quo is Latin for the mess we're in." To begin getting out of the mess we're in, we must change the status quo. To turn the tide and return some semblance of fiscal sanity to our Commonwealth, I believe our first order of business must be to remove the reins of power from the politicians and return them to the people. We need to begin by removing our career-bound politicians and replacing them with taxpayers who actually have skin in the game and who can look beyond the next election to see how the consequences of their policies will affect the masses in the long term. We must remove those things that incentivize a career in politics, end the constitutionally illegal pensions for our representatives, their per diem and other taxpayer-funded goodies. Let's hope without such incentives they'll go away on their own. We need to make our legislature a part-time legislature. The less they convene, the less damage they can do. We must begin to peel away the layers and layers of bureaucracy and the regulatory burdens it imposes for the sake of justifying its own existence. We must remove the shackles from our marketplace and allow business owners and their workers to come to the agreements they see fit for their businesses to thrive. We must reel in these special interest groups that bed with our politicians to ensure their own success at the expense of the taxpayer. Finally, we need to eliminate the school property tax and return to the people the right to their own property. Now, I'm not a politician, and I don't want to make a career out of this. What I am, like you, is a concerned citizen. For 4 years now, I've been fighting tirelessly the powers that be to expose the truth and restore our liberty. I am a mother and a grandmother, and I want for my children what we all want for our children: a bright and prosperous future, which I fear they may not have. This is why I'm here. I do not know or have the answers to everything, but this I know for certain. When it comes to government, what seems at first like an innocuous piece of legislation, just a drop, quickly morphs into a tsunami. My service to you would not be about how many pieces of legislation I author. It will be about how many I can repeal. It will not be about how many rules and regulations I can impose on you under the guise of protecting you. It will be about removing rules and regulations to empower you to protect yourself, run your businesses, make a living, raise your family, and plan for your retirement. My focus will never be how to raise more revenue for the government, rather how to return the revenue to you, its rightful owners. So we can continue with the status quo and remain in the mess we're in, or we can support the effort to create a true citizens' legislature and rescue Pennsylvania from the politicians. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Next we have Mark Warner with the 169th, the new district.
Well, good evening. It's been quite exciting so far. My name is Mark Werner, and I'm running as a Republican for state representative in the new 169th district. I'd like to thank you and the York County 912 Patriots for allowing me to come and speak. I'm running for state representative to make a real conservative impact for the citizens of my district. I'm running because I'm tired of career politicians, tired of them telling us one thing and doing another, tired of them with all talk and no action, tired of them not addressing the real problems that face us. So how are we going to deal with these issues? I believe, as I think that most of you do, that we need to deal with these problems head on. We can no longer kick the can down the road, leave the mess for our kids and our grandkids to deal with. It's not only unfair, but it's also immoral. So to do what we want now and to leave them with the bill is absolutely wrong. The bills are coming due, and we are robbing our kids and the next generation of a prosperous future. We are faced with serious challenges, like the ever-increasing school property tax. It's an unstable, unpredictable business climate that inhibits job creation, a lack of fiscal responsibility, and the looming pension crisis. We must deal with the problem of school district property tax. Every single year, I receive a property tax bill that is higher than the last, and I'm sure that you do as well. Since 2006, my own property tax has increased over 26% in that short a time, and they are already talking about increasing it again next year. Under the current system, there is no end in sight. None. Our friends and our neighbors are losing their homes, or they're being forced to sell because they can't afford the tax. Now, I think that we can all agree that the schools need to be funded, and they will get funded. We can also agree that this tax is a burden to every property owner and unbearable to some. This tax is continuing to keep our home values depressed. It keeps companies and job creators from coming to Pennsylvania. These companies look for less regulation, lower taxes, and skilled workers when they're looking to relocate. We have people who are willing to work. We can reduce the regulation, and we can eliminate this school district property tax now. So I fully support the elimination of the school district property tax by passing HB 76, and with your help, we can make it happen. So the question asks, how do we grow our economy? How do we encourage private sector job creation and revitalize downtown areas? We can do this by creating a stable, business-friendly environment. We need to attract companies and good-paying jobs to York County to be able to support our families, pay our mortgages, and help our neighbors. The more jobs that we have, the more people who are willing to work, the more prosperity for all. Pennsylvania must become friendly towards business by reducing unnecessary regulation and taxation. We need to reduce Pennsylvania's second highest in the nation net corporate income tax. We need to become a right-to-work state. Along with the elimination of school property tax, these couple of changes will make Pennsylvania and York County more attractive to prospective companies, more competitive among the other states, and the economy will grow. We must restore fiscal responsibility to Harrisburg. Fiscal responsibility means making difficult decisions. It means cutting out what does not work and eliminating fraud and corruption in government programs. We need to eliminate the prevailing wage. Whether you know it or not, the prevailing wage adds about 20% to the cost of major infrastructure projects, and it heavily impacts your municipality. In fact, I introduced a resolution that passed in our township to recommend its elimination. And I will make wise, well-informed choices and cut spending in non-essential areas. So as a West Manheim Township Supervisor, I have demonstrated my own fiscal responsibility, helping to bring my township in under its budget for 4 years straight, and have helped to save the residents of West Manheim Township over $1.3 million. I didn't just talk about it, I did it. I worked with state organizations like the DEP to keep public sewer from expanding into areas of our township that were not needed. We succeeded in making West Manheim an example that DEP points to for the management of on-lot septic disposal. This saved our township residents thousands of dollars in connection fees and millions of dollars in unnecessary debt. I understand the impact of a decision. I increased government transparency by displaying all of our township expenses at township meetings and allowing citizens time to ask questions about how their money is spent. That was something new that was never done before in our township. Thank you. And I say again, I didn't just talk about it, I did it. And we face a looming pension crisis. So according to Governor Corbett's office, as we heard here this evening already, we have over a $46 billion shortfall. And in a few short years, it will be over $60 billion, and that is according to the governor's office. The current legislature has ignored and delayed addressing the issue. And maybe they don't think it's a big deal until it's an election year. In fact, the past few years, instead of taking care of the problem, they voted to raise their own pension benefits, as we heard tonight, making the problem essentially worse, not better. They left us, the taxpayers, holding a bag full of IOUs and empty promises. We needed employee common sense reforms like removing the limits that employees can contribute to their pensions. As a township supervisor, I helped take corrective measures to address our local pension concerns. By moving from a defined benefit plan to a 401k type defined contribution plan for new hires and offered current employees additional ways to save for their retirement. We can do this at the state level. So let me say tonight that I will not accept any taxpayer-funded pension or any per diem. I will not accept a state-provided vehicle or any cost of living pay raise or such. I'm not a business-as-usual candidate, as you may have guessed. I'm not the party pick or the establishment's chosen one. I'm a proud conservative Republican. And what I have done at the local level, I will fight for the citizens of my district and their interests. I believe in the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I will protect the life of the unborn and an individual's right to keep and bear arms. So in closing, let me remind you that you have a vote. You have friends and you have family in your sphere of influence. And I would encourage you to use that vote on May 20th. Encourage those around you. Encourage them that their vote does count. Encourage them to use their vote to move conservative principles forward. Encourage them to send liberty-minded individuals and citizens of good character to the state legislature. We must peacefully and intelligently engage one another. We must educate each other. And we must get actively involved. Now's the time. I will continue to stand for the principles and values that I'm proud of. Smaller limited government, lower taxes, and fiscal responsibility, along with personal responsibility, something that seems to be lacking. And my name is Mark Werner, and I'm asking for your support and your vote on May 20th for state representative, as I am the proven conservative candidate that will lead the new 169th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next is Kelly Henshaw with the 94th.
You know, it felt really good to stand up. You guys just want to stand up for a minute? It does feel really good. If you want to, please do. I am Kelly Henshaw, and I'm running in the 94th. I was born in Red Lion, Pennsylvania in 1955, and a graduate of Red Lion Area Senior High School. I have been a lifelong Republican and a resident of the 94th. Married my high school sweetheart, Kathleen Paulus, and I have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. And 2 of those grandchildren are the reason that my wife is not here tonight, because Thursday nights are babysitting nights at the Henshaw house. I'm the owner of Austin Graphics. It's a printing and graphic business. I'm also the full-time sexton at Bethany United Methodist Church in Red Lion. I have been elected and serve on Red Lion Borough Council for the past 4 years and had just won re-election. And with hard work and some great other council people, We have held the line, and we have not had any tax increases in those 4 years. We, the people, are on the verge of losing our freedom. Federal government has been free to take our money, and more importantly, our children's and grandchildren's money, and redistribute it without any say from we, the people. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is doing the exact same thing. The only difference is that we feel the effects so much sooner. Have you filled up your gas tank lately? It's at least 10 cents higher since the transportation bill has been in effect. We need strong leadership, those that can make the tough decisions and not be beholden to the unions, big business, and even worse, the other politicians that are up there. I am that person because I'm the unpolitician. For the past 20 years, my opponent, Stan Saylor, has held the seat in the 94th. Our state government has doubled in size in its spending and has this unquenchable thirst for more and more of our tax dollars. Does that sound like conservative Republicans? Republicans now have control of the House, they have control of the Senate, and they have control of the governorship. After all the tax and spend, we the people, we don't have much to show for it. According to the liberal Keystone Research Center, I like to even quote them, 32 months from 2010 to 2013, job growth is bad in the state. PA is ranked 46 among 50 states. From January of 2010 to January 2011, PA jobs increased 87,300 jobs. The next 12 months, it fell to 46,200. And from January 2013 until this past July, we've only had 5,400 new jobs in the Commonwealth. Meanwhile, Texas, the Dakotas, Florida, you can see them. Everybody's moving there. Why? Because of heavy business taxes and over-regulation. It results in less jobs. When my opponent voted to raise his own pension by 50%, it also raised state employees and teachers 25%, with no real plan how to pay for it. They were betting on the stock market, that it would keep booming. Well, we all know what happened. The day that that was signed into law, we were $10 billion in the hole with no way to pay for it. Now we're 46, 47 billion in the red and no end in sight except for passing it on to us, the taxpayers, in higher property school taxes. We need to move from that defined contribution to a defined benefit type 401k plan, move from the benefit to the contribution. I have pledged not to take the state pension. It's wrong. It's unconstitutional. Article 2, Section 8, read it. It's only this big, very well laid out what they're deserved to have. And I have a self-imposed term limit. But you know, my term limit's 10 years, no more than that. But you know the best way for term limits, don't take the benefits. It's simple. Don't vote for anybody that takes the benefits. Don't make it a career. We all complain about career politicians, but we continually elect them. Pennsylvania, our home property taxes are the 13th highest in the country. Sadly, it's estimated that 10,000 families lose their homes each year due to these property taxes. We've had property tax reform bills in the past with promises that gambling is going to save us money on our property taxes. Saved me $170. And you know what? Did you read? Slot revenues are down. So again, they made the wrong decision. Are you going to elect these same people that keep making the wrong decisions? My opponent voted against an amendment that was added to the bad property tax bill that Seth Grove jammed through. There was an amendment put forward that would have, that day, House Bill 76 would have gone to the Senate. He voted against it. He was also, though, a co-sponsor of House Bill 76. See, look over here while I'm doing something over here. The new gas tax, they're not going to call it a tax, but it's costing us money, so it's a tax. We'll make Pennsylvania number one. We will be number one at something, and it's going to be the highest gas tax in the country. 28 cents possible, but more importantly, and Bob Gazzardi mentioned it, diesel. Everything we get, food, it's going to be passed along. They have to pass along. They're companies, they're businesses. They need to make a profit. Also, which cracks me up, is that they've increased fees on speeding violations, tickets. So they want us to break the law to help fund this transportation bill. I mean, that's what it says to me. Commonwealth Foundation pointed out that there was never a real shortage of funds in the previous transportation funding. Instead, the dollars were not used effectively. Pennsylvania spends more than $71,000 per mile of construction highway cost, ranking us number 11. This is due to union control, prevailing wage, and lack of private and public partnerships. Again, this bad bill passed, and my opponent voted for it, but he did vote for it after he voted against it. I think we heard that somewhere else before. Money that most people think are going to fix our bridges and roads are also going to go to Philadelphia to prop up a failing mass transportation system of SEPTA and Philadelphia, or in Pittsburgh, subsidizing ticket prices, no matter who's riding on SEPTA that could afford more, but that's where money's going. Rail trail projects, it's going to go there. Beautification projects, and walking around money. They're not calling it walking around money. They got to call it something else, but it's walking around money for the legislators to get their pictures in the paper just around the time for election. When our bridges and roads have to be closed to fire apparatus, school buses, because they're unsafe. Meanwhile, they're handing out money for subsidies for sports stadiums, corporate headquarters, and for Hollywood film productions. If your roof is leaking, you're not remodeling your basement, are you? So what makes Kelly Henshaw different? I mentioned I'm the unpolitician. I will not accept a state pension. I will not accept automatic pay raises. I believe that we should have term limits, and I do have a self-imposed term limit. I will not print a taxpayer. I'm in the printing business. I know what printing costs. I know what mailing costs. And you're paying to have your legislator print and mail newsletters that's only used for them to get reelected. I don't care. They're going to tell you that it's, well, we want to give you the information. I'll give you the information. I'll give you the information free on a website or on Facebook. You're going to get the information free of charge. I will not accept a dime of union money to finance any of my campaigns. Stan Saylor received $20,000 from the School Teachers Union PAC. All right? They're against House Bill 76. does it make sense now to you why he voted the way he did? I plan to go to Harrisburg to do the right thing for the people of the 94th and for the Commonwealth and the people for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and make this state what our forefathers envisioned it to be, and make a better place for us to raise our children and grandchildren. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Next we have Ernie Marasotis with the 93rd.
Well, I was just going to say ditto Kelly's speech and then sit down so we can all go home, but just a little bit about myself. I'm Ernie Marasotis, running for state representative in the 93rd District. And depending upon what Ron Miller does tonight, as they're anointing him the new state senator, at least for 2 months until we get to the primary. But he may or may not continue to run for state rep. We don't know yet. So basically, a little bit about myself. Graduated from the Christian School of York, went to Penn State York, Shippensburg University, got my degree in criminal justice, which I think is appropriate since I'm going to be running for office. I think most of our criminals are in Harrisburg to begin with. I served my country as an Army officer. I'm an active volunteer. Thank you. My son's in the Army Reserves now and going to Penn State along with my money. I actively volunteer at my local church. I'm a 30-plus year NRA Life member. I'm very strong in the Second Amendment. I'm a member of the Isaac Walton League of York. I was a small business owner. After college, I owned a restaurant for 10 years because everybody knows that all Greeks are in the restaurant business. After that, I got involved in some other things. I was licensed in insurance, got into trucking. Currently, I'm a safety trainer with A&S Kynard. We have, talking about the transportation bill, we have over 600 employees there and about 450 drivers, and that transportation bill is really going to hammer that company and any other trucking company in Pennsylvania. I used to be a Republican committee man. I was involved in the party, and I didn't like what was going on. So for a while there, I just basically decided, you know what? I would see at the time Ron Miller, Stan Saylor stand up there and give their speeches, and they would say that at some point they would get into power. So if we just continued to help them get reelected, they would bring the whatever it was to York County. I just didn't realize it was manure. Okay? And what have they done with their power? What have they done? You know, it kind of got me frustrated for some time there, and then one day I was going to work, and I happened to get a cup of coffee, and this was York Dispatch, April the 13th, 2009, and I saw on the front page here, saved the paper, 6 return raises. So I got the paper. I was like, well, that's interesting. I didn't realize politicians actually gave back money. And right here on the front page, it said State Representative Ron Miller said he's waiting to see what happens with the bill that would repeal the raise. Miller said for now he has no plans to return the money or give it to charity. Right now, I'm keeping it, quote, unquote, Miller said. I decided right there that I was going to run for office. And I ran in 2010, came in second, ran in 2012, and in 2012, special interest paid over $100,000 to get Ron Miller reelected. $113,746 and change to get Ron Miller bought and paid for by special interests. But I have a different vision for Pennsylvania than Ron Miller. My vision is for a true citizen representation, where people that live and work in the real world get involved in our government. I believe in elimination of property taxes. House Bill 76 that Ron Miller said he supported before he voted against it. I think it's time to get rid of legislative perks. There's way too many perks that they have. I believe that in itself would be a way of eliminating these career politicians. We need to give the people a vote on tax increases. I want to talk a little bit about Act 1 and vote a referendum. What they've done is they passed the law. It's kind of convoluted, but in Act 1, we as voters, anytime your school district wants to raise the taxes above the rate of inflation plus population growth, we would get to actually vote on that, except when they wrote the law, they put in 10 exemptions so that they could go to the Department of Education, the school district can, and apply. And for hundreds of times, they've applied. Well, now that we have the Republicans running things, they cut it down from 10 to 3. And what did they keep? They kept the 3 biggest things. And one of those is the pension. That pension, I tell you what, looking at Dallastown School District, and you can go to their website, what we were paying towards pension was about $1 million 3 years ago. This year it's $5.2 million, and according to my estimation, in about 3 years from now, it's going to probably be about $13 million. Guess what? Big tax increase coming, and it's going to affect your whatever school district you happen to be in. Look at the numbers. It's coming. Ron Miller, 2001, he voted to raise lawmakers' pensions, including his own, by 50%. I also gave the teachers and state workers a 25% raise in their pensions. I guess the lawmakers think they're twice as important. Just weeks ago, Ron Miller voted for a $2.5 billion tax increase on transportation. Higher fuel costs. One of the things is that our company, each truck carries an apportioned tag. That's the front license plate on a tag. The annual cost for that is roughly $1,600 per truck per year. $1,600. You think the $36 registration for your car is bad? Well, that $1,600. According to this bill, and I've read it, in about 4 years, that's going to be about almost $2,300 per truck. And just looking at our company that I work for, multiply that by hundreds of trucks, and everything that you get, the trucking company doesn't have a huge profit margin. It's going to have to pass on those costs. The fuel costs, just our trucking company alone, probably, I'm going to guess, a couple $100,000 a year in increased fuel cost, because fuel is like the number one thing with a trucking company. We look at reducing fuel costs, but that's something that, it's a $2.5 billion tax increase, and you and I are going to be affected by it. All right. What about the property tax elimination? A bill Ron Miller said he supported. He voted against it. Just days ago, Senator Wallace said he would run out his term until 2015, and he was lured away with that nice job, $104,000. Apparently his health has come back. So that the good old boy network could ramrod right now as we're sitting here, right at the fire hall, they're voting Ron Miller in. I guarantee it. And that's going to cost us in this county $200,000, but hey, it's only the people's money. Don't worry about it, right? The real question for tonight is, are we going to let them get away with it? Are we? No. If we don't get involved, they're going to get away with it like they got away all the other times, It takes people standing up and going out and knocking on doors, giving to campaigns. It takes your time. It's, it takes a lot for us to be able to affect our government. People want to say, well, good luck. But if we don't get involved, that's the most important thing, is that each one of us gets involved. So I don't know, whoever you like, pick one of the candidates and support them. And if you're not sure, well, hey, pick me. So I'm Ernie Marasotis, and I'm running for the 93rd District, and I'd appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. And let's thank all of the candidates. Our next meeting will be February 27th. Here, there will be petition signing, so if you're running for anything, bring them along. We will have a notary here with us. Feature. Mark Scaringi will be the featured speaker, nullifying laws that violate the constitutional rights. Yes, question.
I'm Chris Nelson. I'm running for state rep in the 87th district.
Okay.
Could I address the group?
Why don't you come next on our next
like
meeting?
a couple minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody have a problem with that?
I didn't do it.
All right, come on.
Thank you. Boy, can you believe what some of those creeps are doing that are our representatives? And we got some great candidates here. That's awesome. Just over the summer, it was brought to my attention that the United States Constitution says, "The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of 2/3 of the several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislators of 3/4 of the several states, or by a convention in 3/4 thereof." Now, I didn't even know that was in the Constitution until over the summer, or I just read over it. And I picked up a book by constitutional scholar and former chief of staff to Ronald Reagan's Justice Department and radio talk show host, Mark R. Levin, who has proposed 11 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, and we do it through the Convention of States project. You can go to, this is not my website that I'm promoting, but if you want to read about the Convention of States project, you can go to conventionofstates.com, or you know how to use Google. And some of you may already be considering this. But of the 11 amendments that Mark Levin proposes we have, the first is term limits for members of Congress. The second is repealing the 17th Amendment, so the senators are, again, ambassadors of the states, which is what they were meant to be to begin with. The Senate today is the most obscure political body in the whole world, and it's because it wasn't actually supposed to be like that. They were supposed to be representatives of the states. Term limits for Supreme Court justices. Limiting the federal bureaucracy by having all of these agencies like the EPA expire unless they're reauthorized by Congress every 3 years. An amendment to protect the vote. An amendment to limit spending and taxing. And limit taxing to 15%. And this is legal speak. I'm not an attorney. I would never go around, I wouldn't be one to write amendments to the Constitution, but we are on the brink of an absolute total financial collapse. Unless something is done, unless the spending is reined in, unless we term limit Congress. The founders gave us our way out. In Article 5, where the states can get together and have a convention for proposing amendments and amend the Constitution. And after studying it further by reading this book, Mark Levin did the research and all the legal backing and precedent. And this is something that the founders put there specifically so we could have a check on states. I'm running for state representative in the 87th district, which is up in Cumberland County. I don't know if any of you live up there, but I am running on the Convention of States Liberty Amendments platform against Representative Glenn Grell, who is the author of the pension reform bill that will put Pennsylvania $9 billion more into debt. I don't know if any of you have checked Pennsylvania's debt clock yet, but Pennsylvania's got a debt clock too, and it is just going through the roof. And another thing, we must get the Bible back into public schools at all costs. It is ridiculous to teach our kids lies. I'm Chris Nelson, and I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
We're at 9 o'clock. I'm sorry. Next meeting, give us notice. We'll put you on the agenda. All right. In the back, on the back of your handout, you will see the meetings that are coming up over the next month or so. Two other things. Did anybody? I had put in the meeting where if you brought anybody in the age group of 18 to 30, has anybody brought any new guests? Nobody. Come on. We got to get the younger people out here. They're the ones that are going to have the energy to do this. Did everybody get a raffle ticket? Anybody not get one? Do you want one? Get the raffle ticket. Raffle tickets? Yes. Am I forgetting anything? Yeah. Up here, up front. Do you have the rest of them with you? And we're going to raffle one of these off, one winner, $25 gift certificate. We either have Starbucks, which will help you walk and get going. Which one is this? This is Macaroni Grill or Chili's or, can't read that, or Outback. Everybody got one? Everybody? Oh, you're still waiting? Sorry about that. We were a little short-staffed tonight. All the candidates will be in the back of the room if you want to talk to them before they leave. They have flyers, some bumper stickers, other information. And they can also use help.
Everybody good?
Very good. Okay. One other thing, if you can go online and update your profile and let us know what your voting precinct and your school district is, or there's a card in the back, you can actually fill that out real quick. If you fill it out, I'll put it online for you. That allows us to know if there's anybody out there who could potentially help candidates. We won't harass you, we'll just ask you once. Oh, I get to pick it. $699,880. Yeah? Did I hear yeah? Winner. All right. All right, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. We'll see you February 27th.